Okay. So, hello everyone. My name is Kabir Sagar. I have around 8+ years of experience as a SDE, and I have around 7+ years of experience as a software trainer. So basically, I have worked on Monstack plus MainStack. In the same way, I have trained people overall 7 years on Monstack, MainStack, and even on the Java stack. This is very short introduction about me, guys. Right now, I am working with Ashok IT as a Mon plus Mean, and we have other term that is UI Fullstack trainer. UI Fullstack trainer. So basically at Ashok IT, I take the batches on Monstack, MeanStack, and even on the UI Fullstack. So basically UI Fullstack is nothing but combination of Mon plus Mean. This is what I handle at Ashok IT. Okay, so this is very short introduction about me. Now in this workshop, we are going to understand about MongoDB. In this workshop, we are going to understand about MongoDB. And this workshop will be for 5 days, guys. The duration of this workshop is 5 days. So workshop on MongoDB. So this workshop this workshop will go for next 5 days. So today's timing is like 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. or 10 a.m. We will see how it goes. Okay, so we will have 1 hour or 1.5 hour session. Tomorrow we are going to continue our session, and tomorrow's timing will be 7 a.m. guys. So from Monday to Wednesday or Thursday based on our content. So from Monday to Wednesday to Thursday, our timing will be from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Okay, this is very important to understand. So tomorrow you guys have to join from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. to attend this workshop. So today's timing was 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. or 10 a.m. But tomorrow's timing will be 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Okay, this is what I wanted to inform initially before we start our session. So this session is all about workshop on MongoDB. We are going to understand a lot of concepts in MongoDB for next 5 days. Today's timing is 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. and tomorrow's timing will be from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Okay, with same link. No, link will not change. You have to join with the same link. Okay, now let's start our journey with MongoDB. So this workshop is all about MongoDB. So first, let's understand what is MongoDB. Okay, remember guys, it is a MongoDB. It is not a MangoDB. Okay, so many people confused with this word. So many people announce it as a MangoDB. Okay, now it is not a MangoDB. It is MongoDB. Yes. So before I explain what is MongoDB, I just wanted to know from you guys, what is MongoDB? If you know something about MongoDB, feel free to add your answers on the chat. So what is MongoDB, guys? So if anyone wants to answer, use your chat to answer. Okay, nice. I got few answers. So some people said non-relational database, no SQL database, no RDBMS. Nice. So I got the answers, whatever I was expecting. So what is MongoDB means? MongoDB is a database. So what is MongoDB? It is a database. This is the first answer what you need to understand. MongoDB is a database. We call MongoDB as open source. We call it as an open source, no SQL database. It is a open source, no SQL, document-oriented database. This is how we have to define what is MongoDB. Instead of just using one or two terms, better to use proper term. So MongoDB is a open source, no SQL, document-oriented database. Document-oriented database. Now here you need to understand what is open source, what is NoSQL, what is document oriented. If you are clear with these terms, open source, NoSQL, document oriented, then you will clearly understand what is MongoDB. Then only you will clearly understand what is MongoDB. What is open source? Anybody knows what is the meaning of open source? What is the meaning of open source? Anyone have the idea? Nice. Free to use, available for free, free of cost. Okay. Nice. So open source means to use this MongoDB, no need to buy any kind of license. No need to buy any kind of license. That is the first thing. So it's completely free. It's completely free to use. And the source code of MongoDB is available to us. Source code of MongoDB is available to us. If you want, you can use that source code. That is what the meaning of open source. So the open source means it is a free to use, no need to buy any kind of license, and the source code of this MongoDB is available to us. That is the meaning of open source. What is the meaning of NoSQL? What is the meaning of NoSQL? Anybody knows what is the meaning of NoSQL? No structure, no query based. Okay. Any other way to express, guys? I got two answers. Nice. So the first answer what you need to understand whenever you heard this word NoSQL means NoSQL stands for not only SQL. Not only SQL. This is the meaning. NoSQL stands for not only SQL. It means to use this MongoDB, no need of SQL. That is the first point. No need of SQL language. So we are not going to use SQL language to work with this database. That is the first thing. Second thing, to work with this database, no need to follow any structure. No need to follow any structure. No need to follow any strict structure. I can say strict structure. This is the meaning of NoSQL. So if you want to work with MongoDB, no need to use SQL language. Instead of that, we are going to use JavaScript language. Plus, when you are working with this database, no need to use any strict structure. No need to follow any kind of strict structure. That is what the meaning of NoSQL. Second, document oriented. Document oriented means the data that we are going to store inside this database will be in the object format. The data that we store inside this database will be in the object format. On very high level, I am saying it is a object format. Technically, we call it as a BSON format or JSON format, but whether BSON or JSON, both comes under object format only. So on very high level, I am saying that inside the MongoDB, we are going to store the data in object format. Object format. Technically, we use a term called BSON and JSON. So BSON or JSON, both the format are object type only. So here on very high level, I'm using the term object. So MongoDB is a database which doesn't require any kind of license to work with it. And the source code of that database is available to us. If you want, you can customize that source code and you can use it. And to work with this database, no need to follow any kind of strict structure. No need to follow any kind of strict structure. And we are not going to use any kind of SQL language. So SQL language is not used to work with this database. And whatever data we are going to store in this database, that will be in the object format. That will be in the object format. This is how, in your own words, you have to explain what is MongoDB whenever someone asks you in interviews. Whenever someone is asking you in interviews, what is MongoDB? Try to explain in this depth. In this detailed way, you have to explain what is MongoDB. So don't just give one word, MongoDB is database. Don't stop there. Don't say MongoDB is no SQL database or no RDBMS database. Don't stop there. Try to give a proper sentence, that is, it is an open source, no SQL, document oriented database. Once you express this sentence, then don't stop there. Then explain them what is open source, what is no SQL, what is document oriented. So at least take 5 to 10 minutes to explain what is MongoDB. Until opposite person stops you. Until opposite person stops you, you try to explain everything that you know about MongoDB. So when you give this kind of answers in your interviews, opposite person will get the impression that this person has a depth understanding about this concept. Opposite person will get impression that this person has a depth understanding about this concept. So that will be like a positive impression. Clear, guys? What is MongoDB? What is open source? What is NoSQL? What is document oriented? Is it clear up to here? Let me know on the chat, yes, no. Okay, great. Now, one more term we have to understand, that is database. What is database, guys? What is database? So we have understood what is open source, what is no SQL, what is document oriented. But we need to understand what is database as well, right? So how you will define what is database? Document oriented is nothing but storing the data in object format. Document refers to object. Okay, document refers to object. So in MongoDB world, instead of using the term object, we use the term document. Apart from that, nothing else. So data that you store inside your database is in the object format. You will understand. In future, I will explain what is BSON, what is JSON. All those I will make you understand. But right now, just let's stick with the term object. Okay, because we are just in the initial phase of our MongoDB. Slowly, everything you will understand. Yeah. So let's try to understand what is database now. What is database? So anybody have the idea, guys? What is database? Store data in row and column, storage to store the data. Okay. Yes. So let me explain, guys, what is database. Database is a systematic and organized collection of data. So what is database? Database is a systematic and organized. Database is a systematic and organized collection of data. Collection of data. In short, I can say that database is nothing but data with a structure. Data with some structure. If your data is present with some structure, then that is what we are going to call as a database. That is what we are going to call as a database. So database is a systematic and organized collection of data. Collection of data. And database are typically managed by a software called database management system. Databases, in short, we can write DB also. But let me add here this point. Databases are managed by a software application called DBMS. DBMS. DBMS stands for Database Management System. Database Management System. So database is nothing but a systematic and organized collection of data. That is what we call as a database. And to manage this data, we use one software application that is called Database Management System. We call it as a Database Management System. So what are the key characteristics of your database? What are the key points of your database? So why we are going to use this database? Key points. The first point is, using database, we can organize the data. It is used to organize the data in a proper structure. In a proper structure. That is the first key point of the database. Second, whatever data we are going to store in the database, it will be persistent. Data remains persistent. Data is persistent. Data is persistent. What do you mean by persistent? Data will be saved permanently unless explicitly we remove it. So data is saved until we remove it explicitly. That is the meaning of persistent. Third key point of the database is, we can access the data. Data is accessible. Data is accessible to us. So we can write certain queries and we can access the data from the database. Whatever data you required, you can access that data. So we have a proper accessibility to our data. And we have a software called DBMS, which will handle the security, integrity, and storage of your data. So this DBMS will take care of your security, integrity of your data. So what are the key points of using the databases? We can organize the data in a proper structure. That is the first advantage we are going to get if you use database. Second, whatever data we will store, that will be persistent. Data will be accessible to us. Whenever we want, we can access the data. Next, there is a software called DBMS, which will take care of maintaining the security, integrity of your data. Which will take care of maintaining security and integrity of your data. What is the meaning of integrity? Integrity is nothing but it will take care of keeping your data consistent. Your data will be consistent. That is what the meaning of integrity. So these are the key characteristics of your databases. So database is a systematic organized collection of data. It is a place where we are going to store our data. And this database is managed by a software application called DBMS. DBMS stands for Database Management System. The key points of using this database is we can store the data in organized or proper structure. Whatever data you will store, it is persistent. Data will be accessible to us. Data will be secured and it will be integrated. These are the key points of our database. So these are the reasons why we are going to use database for storing and managing the data. These are the reasons why we are using databases to store and manage the data. So what is database? Why we have to use database? That is what I tried to make you understand. So if you use databases for storing the data, these are the advantage what we are going to get. These are the advantage what we are going to get. This is the reason why we are going towards database for the storaging and managing the data. Yeah, it will come, guys. Okay, don't rush. Don't rush. Whatever I am trying to teach, you try to focus on that part. Whatever I am trying to teach, you try to focus on that part. Don't try to think something beyond my context of teaching the topic. Okay. So right now I'm trying to make you guys understand what is database, why we are using database. Now you guys are asking me question, why we have to use NoSQL. I did not come to that point. We will come to that point. So be in the context of what I am trying to teach so that you will not be in the confused state. Even I will not divert from the current context. So everything will come. So once our workshop is done, if you think certain queries are not solved, then you have complete rights to ask your questions. But right now, just stick with the context what I am trying to teach. Okay, so till now we have understood what is MongoDB. Then we started our discussion with what is open source. We discussed what is NoSQL. We have discussed what is the meaning of document oriented. I have discussed what is database and why we have to use database. First, why we have to use database for managing and storing the data. So is it clear, guys, all these points? Okay, all these points are very important, especially for the freshers who are going to attend interviews. So all this theoretical knowledge is required. So many questions will come from this topic. So that's why step by step, we will try to understand. Okay. So is it clear for everyone? If it is clear, all these topics are clear, just type 1. In case if these topics are not clear, just type 0 so that I can get the idea how many of you understood and how many of you got confused or did not understand. Yeah, don't worry, guys. I will provide you proper notes. I will provide you proper notes. Okay. So every day I will provide you notes. So I will provide you my paint file right now, whatever paint file I am creating this paint file I will provide, plus I will provide you PDF also. I will provide same notes in a proper PDF format. So let me show you the notes. So here I have already created the notes For example, database introduction. So here I have added all these notes. Whatever I am teaching, proper notes are present. So like this, proper notes are there. So this PDF I will give you after the end of, at the end of the class, I will provide you this PDF. Okay. Yeah. Now let's understand categories of databases. There are two main categories. There are two main categories of databases. So your databases are divided into two main categories. The first one is your relational database. First one is your relational database. Second one is non-relational database, which we call as a NoSQL databases. So these NoSQL databases are called non-relational databases. These are the two main categories of your databases. Again, NoSQL further divided into multiple categories. Okay, that we will discuss later on. Right now, let's discuss these two main categories. There are two main categories of databases. We have relational database, we have NoSQL database. When it comes to relational database, we have a databases like Oracle, we have MySQL, SQL Server. These are the popular databases which comes under relational database. Apart from this, there are so many, but right now I am just mentioning these three which are very popular in the market. There are so many apart from this. When it comes to non-relational database, we have a databases like MongoDB. We have a databases like MongoDB. We have CouchDB. We have Cassandra, etc., etc. Redis. All this comes under NoSQL or non-relational databases. Like this, we have so many databases. There are so many. I'm just mentioning few. So we have two main categories of databases. Those are relational databases and NoSQL databases, which we call as non-relational databases. Example of the databases are Oracle, MySQL, SQL Server. And when it comes to NoSQL databases, we have databases like MongoDB, we have CouchDB, we have Redis, we have Cassandra, DynamoDB. All this comes under NoSQL databases. Now we need to understand what is relational database, what is NoSQL database. So first, let's try to understand what is relational databases. So relational databases are those databases which have a strict structure, and which uses SQL language, So relational databases are those databases which follows strict structure. It follows strict structure to store and manage the data. And it uses SQL as a language. When it comes to NoSQL databases, as I have mentioned here, it doesn't follow strict structure, and it uses JavaScript. As a language. So when it comes to NoSQL database, it follows structure, but it doesn't follow a strict structure. What is the meaning of strict structure? That also we will discuss. It does not follow strict structure to store and manage the data. Manage the data. And it uses, or it will not use SQL language. It will not use SQL language. So this is the first core difference between relational databases and non-relational databases. Relational databases uses a very strict structure. To work with that particular databases, you have to follow certain structure. Whereas if you want to work with NoSQL databases, no need to follow any kind of structure. No need to follow any kind of strict structure. In relational databases, it is mandatory to use a language called SQL. It is mandatory to use a language called SQL. Suppose you are working with Oracle, you have to use SQL. Even if you are working with MySQL, you have to use SQL. Even if you are working with SQL Server, you have to use SQL. There is a language called SQL which you have to use with relational databases. And if you are working with NoSQL databases, then we are not going to use SQL language. Instead of that, when it comes to MongoDB, here we are going to use JavaScript language. So MongoDB will use JavaScript language. JavaScript language. This is the biggest advantage that we have when it comes to MongoDB. No need to learn any extra language like SQL to work with it. Already, if you know JavaScript, you can directly use JavaScript language to work with MongoDB database. MongoDB database. Now, we need to understand why these NoSQL databases are popular. What are the reasons behind that? So to understand why NoSQL databases are popular, first we need to understand the limitations or drawbacks with relational databases. What are the limitation or drawback with relational database? So NoSQL databases like came into picture recently. Recently means like 10-15 years ago. But before that, we had this relational databases only. But now why this NoSQL databases came into picture? Why this MongoDB is becoming so popular in the market right now? So to understand that part, first we need to understand what are the limitations, what are the drawbacks with relational database. Okay, so the first limitation or drawback with relational databases follows rigid schema. They are going to follow rigid schema. Now, what is the meaning of rigid schema? Rigid schema means whenever you want to store the data, first you have to define the structure for your data. Before storing the data in your database, first you have to define the structure for your data. First, define structure for the data. Now, what is the meaning of defining the structure for data? So basically, in relational databases, we store data in the table format. So before storing the data in this table, first you have to decide this table should consist how many columns? How many columns this table should have? First, you have to decide that. Then in each column, what should be the data that you want to store? What data you want to store in each column? For example, if I am saying that in my first column, I want to store the ID. In second column, I want to store the name. In third column, I want to store the city. Now, you have to follow this structure. Whenever you are storing the data, then you have to take care that in first column, always you are storing ID. Second column, you are always storing name. third column always you are storing CT only. So for every data, you have to follow this strict structure. You cannot do for one record in first column you are storing ID, and for second record you are storing name as a first data in first column. You cannot do like that. For one user, you cannot store ID in first column. For second user, you cannot store name in first column. This will be invalid here. So for every user or for every data, you have to make sure that in first column, you have to store ID only. In second column, name only. In third column, CT only. That is the meaning of defining the schema. So you have to define how many columns your table should have and what should be the data you want to store in each column. And what should be the data type of each data also you have to define. You have to define the data type of each column. So ID means number type data only you have to store. Name means string type of data only, varchar in your relational database. CT means string, again varchar only. So you cannot store ID for one user ID in the number format, for second user ID in the string format. So that flexibility you don't have. So you have to define data type, and every data in this column should follow that data type. Like this, strict rules we have to follow. But when it comes to NoSQL database, there we are going to store the data in the object format. Object format means like this. This is the object format. Like this, for every user, we will create like this object. And this objects in MongoDB, we are going to call as a document. These objects in MongoDB, we are going to call as a document. Now, to create this document, no need to create any kind of schema for us. No need to create any kind of structure. So in one object, you can store two information, like you can store name city. In second object, you can first store city, then you can store name. You don't have any such restrictions. In third object, if you want, you can store more than two properties. You can store city, you can store name, you can store gender also. So here we don't have any rules like in this object, you should have only two properties or only 5 properties like that. And the sequence of the properties should be first name, then city. Such kind of rules we don't have. We can store first name, then city in one object. In second object, you can store first city, then name. In third object, you can add additional information like gender also. Here gender is not present. Here gender is not present. But here gender is present. So this type of data is valid in NoSQL. But this type of data is invalid in your relational databases. So in relational databases, you have to follow some strict structure. Like before storing the data, you have to define the structure of your table. You have to define how many columns it should have, what type of data you should have add in that column, what should be the data type of that column. Like that, strict rules we have to decide. In future, if you want to modify this table, it will be difficult for you. It is not that easy process to modify this table. If your table is small, it contains less data, you can modify it. But if your table contains lot of complex data, then modifying will be little challenging for you. It will be little complex for you. That's why once your table is created, we will make sure that that table is not modified. We will not modify the table until it is mandatory for us. So this is what the meaning of rigid schema. Understood, guys? What is the meaning of rigid schema and what is the problem with relational database and how that problem is resolved in your NoSQL database? Okay. Yes. Relational databases stores the data only in the table format, guys. Now, second problem. Second problem is scalability. Scalability. So what is the meaning of scalability? The scalability means you can scale your database only in the vertically format. You can scale it vertically only. What do you mean by vertically? For example, let's assume that you have a database. You created database. In this database, you are storing lot of data. Now this database became full. You have occupied complete storage, but you have more data to be stored. You have more data to be stored. In that case, what we are going to do to this current database, to this current system, we are going to add more space. We are going to add more space. Like you will add more RAM to it. More space you are going to add. So that the new data you can store here. Or if your database is not capable of querying this data, then you will add more CPU. You will add more CPU. You have to add more RAM or you have to add more CPU to the existing system. So you cannot store your data in two different databases. You cannot add more machines to your current database. You cannot add more servers to your current database. What you have to do, if your data is increasing, you have to add more RAMs and more CPU. And adding this more RAMs and more CPU will be very heavy cost. It will cost you very heavily. So this is what we call as a vertical scaling. We call this part as a vertical scaling. Vertical scaling means to the existing system, we add more RAM, more CPUs as per our requirement. As per our requirement. So in your relational databases, if you want to scale your database, then you have to do vertical scaling only. There is another concept called horizontal scaling. Horizontal scaling means here instead of adding CPUs and RAMs, we add more servers. We add more servers. Nothing but we add more systems. That is called horizontal scaling. And horizontal scaling is not possible when you are working with relational database. By default, it follows vertical scaling. So the scalability in your relational database is more complex, more cost effective. It's like a more cost. It's a heavy cost. That is one more problem with relational database. But if you are using NoSQL database, it is more easily scalable compared to relational database as it supports horizontal scaling. Plus the cost of scaling your application or database is cheaper compared to your relational database. So cost is more effective in non-relational database compared to your relational database. So in short, we can say that if you want to scale your data, if you want to scale your database in relational database, it is little complex. It is more cost effective. But NoSQL database can easily scale, plus the cost will not be that much as compared to your relational database. That is one more disadvantage what we have in the relational database. Third, in relational databases, we have a complex joins concept. So joins concept is very complex. So here we have complex joins. Complex joins means in relational database, we will create multiple tables. And we are going to store our data into multiple tables. For example, if I want to store the data of user, one user, then I can store user personal data in one table. I can store users orders details in one table. I can store users payment details in another table. I can store users' address details in another table. So what we are doing, one entity data, we are dividing into multiple tables. Now, whenever I want entire details of user, if I get a requirement to fetch, entire details of user, then it will be very difficult for me to write the query to access data from multiple tables. It will be very difficult for me to write the query to access the data from multiple tables. And when you distribute your data into multiple tables while accessing the data, the performance will decrease. So the performance of your application will decrease. Why it will decrease? Because now you have to access the data from multiple tables. So when you are trying to access the data from multiple tables, obviously it is going to take some time, which is going to affect the performance of your application. This is the problem with your relational database. In non-relational database, there is a concept of embedding. So instead of storing the data like this into multiple tables, there we create something called collection. And inside the collection only we can maintain all the data. Inside one collection, we can maintain entire data of the user in the embedded format. So what is that embedded format? In coming sessions, we are going to see practically. So here, when you are working with NoSQL databases, no need to use joins concept. So very rarely we are going to use joins concept when it comes to NoSQL database. So there also we get a requirement to store our data into multiple collections, but that also in very rare cases we are going to get that chance. But maximum time what we can do, we can store all the data of particular entity at one place using embedded format. So easily you will be able to maintain the data. And at very fast rate, you can access the data. You can store the data. So the performance of your NoSQL databases are very, very, very fast compared to relational databases. Even if you look towards performance, the relational databases are very slow compared to NoSQL databases. So here relational databases are slow compared to NoSQL databases. So in relational databases, it will take some time to insert and access the data. But in NoSQL databases, accessing and inserting the data is very, very fast. Your relational databases cannot store semi-structured data. So data formats. So relational databases cannot store the data which is in the audio format, which is in the video format, which is in the image format, which is in the JSON format, XML format. This type of data we cannot store in the relational databases. So the applications like e-commerce or any social media or applications like your streaming applications like Netflix. Now this kind of applications requires the data in this format, audio, video format, image, JSON format. In that case, your relational databases fails. And this is where again to store this type of data, we required NoSQL databases, which supports structured data, which supports semi-structured data, which supports non-structured data also. Which supports non-structured data also. Here XML and JSON is called semi-structured data. Audio, videos and images are called non-structured data. So if you have a requirement to store this kind of data, again your relational databases will fail. So to overcome all these problems, your NoSQL databases came into picture. NoSQL databases came into picture. So whatever points I have explained, everything properly I have documented, guys. Everything I have documented properly. So if I show you, so here everything I have documented properly. So NoSQL databases emerge to address the limitations of traditional relational databases in the context of modern web, mobile and big data applications. So here I have explained everything. So what is the meaning of rigid schema? What it means? Example, what are the problems we are going to face? The real world issues. Like this, we have scalability. So what is the meaning of scalability? What is the problem with relational database? All that I have added here. Complex joins, unstructured data handling, big data challenges. In the same way, then how these problems are overcome in NoSQL databases. Same thing, but with NoSQL database, how it is solving. That points also I have added here. Okay, little bit I have to format this PDF properly. I will format and I will give you. So if you go through this documents, it's more than enough to crack any kind of interviews when it comes to database part. When it comes to MongoDB database part, whatever content I am going to teach in this workshop, that is more than enough as a fresher to crack your interviews. Okay, as a fresher, it's more than enough. For experienced people, you require little bit more knowledge apart from what I will cover in the workshop. But for freshers, it's more than enough. Understood, guys? What are the limitations and drawbacks we have with relational databases and why NoSQL database is coming into picture? And as I have mentioned, there are so many types of NoSQL data types. There are different types of NoSQL databases. In that, one of the type is document oriented database. One of the type is document oriented database. We have something called key value oriented database also. We have graph oriented database also. So again, under NoSQL, we have so many other types, guys. We have so many other types. We have document oriented database. We have key value oriented database. We have something called graph oriented database. We have something called time series oriented database. All these are the types of your NoSQL databases. And our MongoDB comes under document oriented database. Your Redis database comes under key value pair. Redis comes under key value pair. These are the different types of NoSQL databases. So now we are not going to explore all this. Our target is to learn MongoDB database. Our target is to learn MongoDB database. Now to work with this MongoDB database, to understand about this MongoDB database, first you need to install MongoDB server. Second, you need to install Mongo shell. These are the two softwares, two applications that we have to install. We have to install MongoDB server to work with MongoDB database and MongoDB shell. So in today's session, I will show you this installation, and in tomorrow's session, we will start with MongoDB part. We will understand what is MongoDB. Already we discussed in today's class. What is the purpose of MongoDB? That also we have discussed in today's class. In tomorrow's session, we will discuss what are the advantage of MongoDB. What are the disadvantage of MongoDB? What is the use of this MongoDB server? Why we are installing it? What is the use of Mongo shell? Why we are installing it? How to create MongoDB database? How to store the data in the MongoDB database? How to access the data from MongoDB database? All those things we are going to see in tomorrow's session. So in today's session, first let's try to understand how to install this. At least our setup will be ready. So if you want to install this MongoDB server, visit a website called mongodb.com. Open your browser and visit a website called mongodb.com. Okay, now let's come back here. Go to the mongodb.com. Just type mongodb.com. You will land on their official website. Now, click on these products. Then click on this edition part. Community edition. Then scroll down. Click on download option. One more page will open. Again scroll down. Now, based on your operating system, download installer file. So right now I am using Windows. So by default, it is selected Windows. If you are using any other operating system, for example, if you are using here something like Mac, then select Mac. If you are using something called Linux, use Linux. If you are using Windows, you use Windows. So right now I am using Windows. So I have selected Windows. Package type. When it comes to Windows, there are two types, MSI and zip. So better to go with this MSI. By default, MSI will be selected. If it is not selected, you select MSI and click on download button. So when you click on download button, one installer file will be downloaded. So already I have downloaded. So I will pause it and I will go to my downloads. So here you will find that. Now, once that installer file is downloaded, double click on that. It will open one wizard. Click on next button. Select this checkbox. Again, click on next button. Click on complete button. Again, click on next button. And here there will be one checkbox. Install MongoDB Compass. Uncheck this checkbox. Uncheck it. And again, click on next. Click on install. That's it. These are the simple steps to install MongoDB server in your system. So how to install? Once your installer file is downloaded, double click on it. It will open the wizard. Click on next. Select this checkbox. Click on next. Click on complete option. Click on next. Uncheck this install MongoDB Compass option. Click on next. Click on install. Wait for 1 minute. Within 1 minute, it will install MongoDB server. We are installing MongoDB server in our system. Once it is installed, then we have to install Mongo shell. So what is the use of MongoDB server? What is the use of Mongo shell? I will explain in next session. Why we are installing it. All those things I will explain you. But right now, let's install and keep in our system. Yeah. So before I teach you how to install Mongo shell, let me share you one information, guys. So from tomorrow at 9 a.m. I am starting with UI full stack batch. I am starting with UI full stack batch. Which is Mern stack, which will be on Mern stack. In this UI full stack, we are going to learn completely from zero level HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and React.js. Redux. Apart from this, we are going to learn Node.js, Express.js, and MongoDB. So these are the technologies what we are going to learn in our UI full stack course. So in case if you are interested to attend the demos on this part, then you can join tomorrow at 9 a.m. For that, this is the link, guys. So you can register on this link. So I will provide that on the chat. You will find it. In the same way, in the evening at 6 p.m., suppose if you think that already you know HTML, CSS, and if you are interested only learning in React.js, then at 6 p.m., I am starting with React.js. Which is exclusive React.js batch. So in case if you are interested to learn only React, if you think that I know HTML, CSS, I know basics of JavaScript, and I want to learn React, then you can attend the demos. So you will have 3 demos, 3 to 5. Okay, it can be minimum 3, maximum 5, 3 to 5 demos on UI full stack and 3 to 5 demos on React sessions. So freely, without paying any kind of amount, you can attend those demo sessions. So after attending that 3 sessions, then you can decide whether you need to go with this course or you want to drop. So in case if you are interested, then only register. If you are not interested, you can skip this part. You can just avoid this part. Okay, and to register for React, so let me provide that link as well. So this is the link, guys. So here I have added the link. So you guys can just go through it. Okay, let me add these links once again. All these links I will add. Okay, you can take your time to register for it if you are interested. If you are not interested, just ignore it. If you are not interested, just ignore that part. So in today's session, we have seen how to install MongoDB server. Let's see how to install Mongo shell. It's very easy. Go to the browser, search for Mongo shell download. Mongo shell download. When you search for Mongo shell download, you will get this first link, MongoDB shell download. Click on this link. Directly you will land on the download page. Scroll down. By default, zip is selected. Select here MSI and download it. So when you click on download, it will download. So Mongo shell installer file will download. So once it is downloaded, open that file. So when you open that file, one wizard will come like this. Click on next button. Again, click on next button and click on install button. It's very simple to install Mongo shell. So once that installer file is downloaded, then just open that file. Just open that file. One wizard will open. Click on next. Again, click on next and click on install. That's it. These are the two next button you have to click and then install button. So MongoDB shell will be installed in your system. So why we are installing this MongoDB server and MongoDB shell to work with MongoDB database? We required these two softwares. We required these two applications called MongoDB server and MongoDB shell. That is the reason we are installing it. Why we have what is the use of MongoDB server? What is the use of MongoDB shell? That we will try to understand in our next session. So in next session, I will explain you what is MongoDB. Already we discussed. What is the purpose of MongoDB? Already we discussed. But we will try to discuss what are the advantage, disadvantage of MongoDB. And then we will discuss what is the use of this MongoDB server, MongoDB shell, how to create MongoDB database, how to store the data in our database, how to access the data from the database. All these things we will see in the second session itself. And our second session is tomorrow itself at 7 a.m. guys, at 7 a.m. So tomorrow our session is at 7 a.m. So till Wednesday or Thursday, our session will be at 7 a.m. only. Okay, remember this point. Today our session was at 9 a.m. but tomorrow our session is at 7 a.m. Join with same link. Whatever link you have used to join today's session, use same link. In tomorrow's session, before I start my session, tomorrow I will provide you one link. I will provide you one link from where you can download. You can download my paint file and you can download the PDF that I will provide. So little bit editing part is pending from my end. I will edit that part, and in tomorrow's session, before I start my session, I will provide you a link from where you can download paint file, today's paint file and today's content PDF also. In this way, daily I will provide you paint file PDF, paint file PDF. So whatever content I will cover, based on that I will provide you paint file and I will provide you PDF. Okay, so let me save this. So here I will create one folder called MongoDB workshop. And in that, today was our session 1. So session 1, in that, this is our paint file. And PDF also I will store there. Okay. So remaining things we will discuss in tomorrow's session, guys, at 7 a.m. Yeah, now if you have any doubts, you guys can post on the chat. In case if you don't have any doubts, yeah, you guys can leave. So I have given the permissions to chat. Yeah, to learn React, the prerequisite is you should know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So horizontal scaling we use whenever we have more data and our capacity is finished. Suppose whatever storage you have, you are done with that, but still there are so much data that you need to store, you need to manage. So in that case, we go for horizontal scaling. Harsha, you have that possibility. Like if you are attending React.js at 6 p.m. and you don't want to attend at 9 p.m., yeah, you can skip, 9 a.m., you can skip that part. So you can attend parallelly all the courses to finish it little bit fast. So without knowledge of JavaScript, it will be difficult for you to learn MongoDB. You should have knowledge on JavaScript, guys. So Mayur, as depends upon your requirement. So all the databases are suitable for freshers. Dinesh, there are a lot of criteria based on which your databases are divided. One of the criteria is your relation structure. Swaroop, backend, which one is better, Node.js or Java? Both are better. Which whatever you like, you can go with that. Both have good opportunities in the market. Yes, for learning MongoDB, JavaScript is mandatory, guys. So recordings, I'm not sure, guys, whether it is available or not. But that you have to ask to the admin. So they are the right person to explain it. So fees, everything I have mentioned in that link, guys. You can have a look on that UI full stack and React.js. Notes I will provide you tomorrow, guys. Okay. Yes, Mohan. In 6 p.m. we will start with JavaScript only. So we learn certain concepts of JavaScript, then we will move into React. So directly we won't start React. First we learn JavaScript, then we start React. So for MongoDB are free sessions, guys. No need to pay any fee. It's completely free workshop. So Aditya, any full stack you can learn, but compared to Java, Mon is easy. But if you want to go with Java, that is also okay. Yes, AI is emerging. Is it good to learn full stack? Obviously, it's good to learn full stack. Without full stack, there is no use of AI also, right? So if you have a knowledge in full stack, then only you can use AI to build your application at faster rate. AI will just help you till certain extent. After that, we have to use and we have to work on that. So AI cannot build everything that we want. What will be the difference in both the courses means in UI full stack, we are going to learn everything from end to end, like we learn front end, back end, database. When it comes to 6 p.m., there we just learn JavaScript and React. That's it. So in 6 p.m. batch, we don't cover Node.js, we don't cover MongoDB, we don't cover Express, we don't cover HTML, CSS, Bootstrap. We just cover JavaScript and React in 6 p.m. batch. But in 9 a.m. batch, we cover everything from the scratch to end. So sessions will be project oriented, guys. We won't create any separate project. So whatever concepts we are going to learn, everything will be project oriented. So while learning the concepts, we are going to develop project when it comes to our UI full stack or React. Real time project right now, not, but yeah, in coming days, we are going to start. Manoj, if you are from non-IT background, there is no prerequisite to start with React full stack or UI full stack. Okay. Just if you have a basic knowledge of computer, then you can join it. So that is what UI full stack is all about. So we are going to start completely from zero level. So no prerequisite. But if you want to join 6 p.m. batch, then it is mandatory that you should have knowledge on HTML, CSS. Yeah, React we will start from zero level only, guys. But you should know HTML and CSS. Then only you can join it. If you don't know HTML, CSS, then I don't recommend you guys to join React.js batch. You can join UI full stack, and anyways, in that we will cover React as well. So UI full stack will go for 3.5 months, guys. If you attend parallelly, again you can finish little bit early. But if you attend only in one batch, then it will go for 3.5 months. Yes, Naveen, it will be end-to-end part. Manoj, I did not get your point. What do you mean by supporting? So we provide placement assistance. So if you can crack those companies, then obviously we'll get the job. So it depends upon you how you crack it. Yes, but placement assistance is provided by us. Not placement guarantee, it's a placement assistance, guys. Which type of developers, Kalpana? I didn't get you. React is different for which types of developers? Like, what do you want to ask exactly? See, for .NET developers, React will be used in the front end part.